Thank you so much for having me be here today. uh, it's wonderful to join all of you. Pleasure to meet the students and Junior Achievement Washington. Thank you again for having me be here. I'll just jump right into it. So Esther Richmond, a Community Relations Manager here at Bank of America in the Seattle market. I'm going to speak a little bit to my role towards the end here, but I'll talk a little bit about my overall just journey with the bank. So I'm going on a whopping 20 years with the bank. I say that and it just blows my mind to think that I have been with the bank for 20 years already. I definitely look forward to many more years. I know that the company has so many different growth opportunities that I can go into. And that's one thing that I really do enjoy and appreciate about Bank of America. So just to kind of speak about that 20-year journey, I'll start with where I first got into with the bank. And I came in as a cash vault teller. So if you're not familiar with the bank and how that runs, the cash vault helps to supply all of the money to our financial centers. And so I was there behind the scenes managing those deposits. A lot of that too was from some of our larger clients here in the Seattle area, and getting them the cash that they needed for their retail stores and locations. I did that for about a year, and then an opportunity became available in the financial center. And so that was definitely a direction that I wanted to go. And I'll tell you a little story about my experience trying to get my first foot in the door as a financial center teammate. I had applied first for that role, and I was not selected. It was very tough to have been told that. I had wanted the chance to be able to work at the bank, and I had at the time a few friends that had gotten into those positions. So a part of me felt a little defeated, but I told myself, no, I wasn't going to give up. If there was something that I needed to learn from it, I was going to figure that out. Then I realized that there was another chance for me to get in, and it was through that cash vault position. So I gave it a go, and that worked for me. And so kind of a lesson learned, don't give up. If it's something that you truly are wanting to get into, just keep attempting to go forward in that. Like I said, I reflected back on what maybe I didn't do right. Maybe I didn't present well, or maybe I needed to speak and articulate in a certain way so that I could have been seen as the right choice. And so I share that as just a learning, because in life and as you all adventure out and learn the ways of interviewing and meeting with employers, it won't always go in your favor. So just keep that in mind. But again, don't give up. And so I went, after working already for a year at the bank, I went and interviewed in the financial center. I got the opportunity to work there. It was great. It was kind of short-lived. About 6 months into role, I then I had a chance to meet with someone within the HR team. And you'll hear me say this later too. People that you know, the networks that you build are very important. When you're working at an industry or a corporation that is very large, like Bank of America, we're a global company. So imagine we've got over 200,000 employees across the country. It's big. So in order to really be seen, you have to network. You have to make connections inside the organization that will, in some cases, help to open that door for you. And so I had met someone in HR, and through that connection, about 6 months in my role, I then got an opportunity to go into HR. I was brought in as an administrative assistant, and worked really hard at that. Also short-lived because of my work ethic. So that's also important. Work ethic, being, on time, being professional, presentable. One of the things that I learned very quickly, especially being at the bank, is having that sense of desire to want to learn more, to take on more responsibilities, to ask for exposure into certain things. This way, when there is that opportunity that opens, they're willing to consider you because you've already kind of taken those steps forward. So sure enough, I was then moved into a recruiting coordinator role. And really my career from there just continued to evolve. I then shortly after became a direct recruiter and had been in that position for quite some years. The overall time that I was in HR was 13 years, loved every minute of it. I spent a lot of time hiring for our consumer teammates, or consumer line of business. And this was all over the country. So I supported markets in New York, in Charlotte, in Arizona, in California. I think my list goes on and on and on, which is great because that, again, as I talk about networking and building my connections, that was very helpful. It allowed me to meet folks in other states. And what's great about it is that there are people that are still with the bank that I can lean on and reach out to if I need anything, or if I want to talk to them about a different position that I may be interested in. I tap on their shoulder because I know them, and it's great. So again, I stress the importance of building your network. And then shortly, well, not shortly, but 13 years in the HR role, I had an opportunity to come into the philanthropy side of Bank of America, the role that I'm in today. And it really started from my passion and my experience in giving back into the community and doing my own volunteer work. I was very connected with several different organizations in the Seattle area, providing mock interview support, resume skill building. There was a lot that I was doing for different programs that we funded at the bank, but that I just was aware of as well. And because of my HR experience and wanting to bring people into the bank to show them the same opportunities that I received, that was important to me. I wanted to give back into my community that way. I wanted to make sure that we also had good representation and diversity within the organization. I am a second generation Mexican American, and so I'm proud, to represent my Hispanic Latino community. And with that, I felt it was very important too that I helped to bring that diversity into an organization like Bank of America. So that was kind of where it all started, where it all formed. And through that, it gave me that chance to move into a position within our philanthropy team. And so I've been in that role now for about 5 years. In my role, I manage everything that aligns to our Bank of America Charitable Foundation. So when we're working with nonprofit organizations and discussing our grant process, I work with them here in our local market. And we have several different signature programs. We have a neighborhood builders program, a student leaders program. I'll have to come back and talk to everyone about that at a later date, which it's just an amazing program. And this is for junior and seniors in high school. So more to come on that one. But those are some of the programs that I get to work with and manage here for our market. In addition to that, I work very closely with our employee network leaders. So I talk about my own passion that I had as a recruiter when it comes to the diversity that we have and representation here at the bank. And so that carries on through my own work with our D&I efforts. I'm an advisor to 9 different employee networks, and there's so much that we do there. We have different kind of arms to our work, different pillars is what we call it. It could be around workplace environment, so creating conversations, courageous conversations, and engaging our team in how we can improve our workplace when it comes to inclusion. And so just love that. And then of course, I engage our employee network leaders and our members in the work that we do in the community. And so when we're working with organizations like Junior Achievement, encouraging them to volunteer and support the mission of those organizations, I lean to our employee network leaders to really help drive that as well. And so it's wonderful working with them. And yeah, as far as my role, I love what I do. I mentioned this earlier, but I think it chose me. But in a sense, I feel like I, somewhat created or had this sense of where I wanted to go once I got into the company. But the fact that it was there and available to me, it was great. I think many people are very surprised to hear about how many different positions are at Bank of America. There are so many different roles. I once learned that we actually have like a back end, we have like an events type team that works with out of the Charlotte headquarters, who puts on all of the different events there within those local markets, some of the bigger national events that we have. We have a pilot, which is, these are some of the more odd type jobs that we have, but it's amazing to see. For some of you that might not know, we have a global tech and operations team. So we call it our GT&O team. And so for anyone that, is interested within that technology STEM field, we have a lot, especially here in the Seattle market. We have a pretty large hub, close to 200 employees that sit out of the Seattle area. I always like to highlight that because I think that's a great area in a field that I don't know that many are aware of. So I'll add here now, kind of go in a different direction. As far as ways and opportunities in coming into Bank of America, I can speak for days for that just because of my prior role as a recruiter. But I do believe that a really good start is going into the consumer side. If you want to become a client, a customer representative that is kind of like a teller, right? A teller within our financial centers. That's always a great way to get your foot in the door. I can't tell you how many success stories that I have heard from folks that started there and have grown their career with the bank just like I have. There's actually many that I talked to today and engaging them in the work that we do. And they remind me, Esther, you hired me, 15 years ago, and now I'm a Merrill advisor. I love that. It's amazing. So I really, again, I can't say enough about the different opportunities that Bank of America has to offer. Again, I mentioned the networking piece of it and how important it is. That's still, when I learned that fairly, new coming into starting my career at the bank, I still talk about that today. I still know that makes an impact on my journey, even where I may see I'm going in a year from now or 2 years from now. That networking piece is so critical. So in addition to networking, I'll also say it's about building your brand as well, which that could be a whole nother conversation, but make sure that that's part of it. If you're building your brand while you're networking, it just makes it easier for the people in larger organizations like Bank of America to really look to identify you and know what you can contribute to a role that they may have within their line of business. I know I'm right at 1:15. I've been good at checking the time, and I hope I shared enough information, but that was a little about me within the time that I had, but also wanting to highlight the different, career past that as far as coming into the bank, my suggestion and recommendations. However, I'm always willing to talk with anyone one-off. If you are very interested in getting into the financial industry, happy to provide some more feedback or coaching if there's interest in coming into our field.
Thank you so much, Esther. We have some
Yeah.
questions. First of all, how do students build their own brand?
Ooh, students building your own brand. That's great. Very good question. Well, I think it starts with, as you look at building just your experience, of course, it starts there. So when you look at what are the work that you're doing, and it doesn't have to necessarily be actual work experience. It could be just the work that you're doing in your community, working with your school, representing in a way that shows what you may be passionate about, how you articulate things, how you're in a sense also advocating for certain changes or things that you want. Being present, of course, in your school, in your classroom. And so those are, I would say, some of the ways that you're starting to build your brand right now as a young adult. So taking all of that into consideration really helps to build how people see you, right? So it's about the way you're representing yourself. Definitely leads to, to building your brand. And I think you see your teachers will lean on you for more things as you start to develop that.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite interview question you like to ask young professionals for entry-level roles?
Okay, this one's more, okay, I do love this one, but and this actually goes back to, and you'll probably think it's funny. This goes back to when I first started interviewing, and this was part of our interview questions, but I thought it was fun, it was creative, and I'd always get a kick out of what some people would say. But if you had to choose an animal that best described you, what is that animal and why?
Is there any specific reason they asked you to ask that question?
So I think a lot of times what that does and it did for me, it allowed the person to kind of let loose a little bit, right? Because I think in a lot of cases, people tend to be very nervous when you're interviewing. And so you got to break the ice at some point or in some way, especially for the recruiter. And so I think it was for that purpose, but also it helped for them to describe kind of how they saw themselves. And so with being for the role that I was hiring for was very customer focused, customer driven. And so you did have to kind of have that sense of connection with either like that there was a sense of enjoyment working with others, being friendly, having kind of that funny side of you. And so depending on how that would be answered, that did say a lot for some folks. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Maybe that's more of a psychological type of a breakdown way of interviewing or thinking, but we did have a lot of other behavioral based type questions. So that's something that I would say and give advice to when you're interviewing. Be prepared to answer those type of behavioral based questions, or like situational questions. Tell me about a time when you had to manage through a challenging situation or working with someone that was challenging. Those are a lot, you tend to hear those type of questions during interviews, and really they want to see how you're able to work around those challenges, come up with solutions, and how you can just kind of navigate through that all together.
Awesome. What women inspire you and why?
Oh, what women is, that's always a tough one. I don't know that I have, like, I'm not, I'll be honest with you, when I think about like celebrities or other people that, political people. It's never been something that I look at and say, oh, that's my inspiration. I tend to just look at women in general and see how they've grown and their aspirations and their achievements. And that really pushes me to want to be a woman leader myself. So I look at just the beauty of all of us women and the potential and what we have to offer as women. So I would and sometimes I hear this from people too. Well, it's either their mother. And I think that's beautiful. And I could say the same thing as well. But I truly do. I think I look at every woman in a way and I say, wow, there's something about her that inspires me to keep doing more.
Amazing. What do you think is the most significant barrier to female leadership?
That's a good one. Significant barrier to women leadership. Well, right now, I think it starts with making sure that we actually have a seat at the table. And I think a lot of companies right now are starting to shift in that direction, but it's taken a long time. That's one thing that I would say that I'm proud of Bank of America is that you look at the workforce, and we have over 50% of the women, or over 50% of employees are women at Bank of America, which is awesome. You can't say that for a lot of other companies. And then there's 40% in management, and then another 30% within the board. So the bank has done a tremendous job in doing that. But I think although we're at a great place, one, we can't stop, but we also need to make sure that other companies see the same value in that diversity as well. And so I think it's getting that seat at the table. And then from there, we know that that's just one barrier. There's many more that follow that. And it's either getting your voice to actually be heard and not holding back. I think sometimes there's that stigma that, well, if you're too rough, then that's looked upon as being negative. But that's not the case. That's just more reason of why women are being held back. And so there's several barriers that I think we need to get, but I think as a start right now, where we're at today, we need to see more women leaders again at the table and taking on much higher positions.
Thank you for that. Do you have a favorite professional memory or accomplishment?
Oh, I have a lot of those. I do have a lot. No, I'd have to think about which ones stands out the most. Professionally, well, I have to reflect on where I'm at today. 20 years with the bank. I'm an SVP. I had a very challenging childhood. I did not go the traditional route of education going into college. I came straight to the bank. For me, that opportunity opened so many doors. I have 3 kids, and so I kind of started young with having children as well. So there was many things. So for me, just reflecting on my overall career, my accomplishment is where I am today. I'm extremely proud of myself to be where I'm at. My family, they're not as far as just where they have been able to go professionally. They didn't have a lot of opportunity. My parents, same thing. They didn't. My mom, from her background, she worked more in the fields, and so for her, she made it to 5th grade. Their family was very poor, and so to be in the position that I'm at, I've definitely have achieved a lot. So I'd say, yeah, right now.
So if now Esther could give advice to, at the very beginning of your career, beginning Esther, what kind of advice would you give her?
I would say, these are really great questions. I would say to not doubt yourself, that you're very capable. I think that prevented me a lot from moving faster in my career. And I say that, and some people look at where I've gone and they go, you're crazy. But I'm also the type of person where I'm not satisfied just being in like one role or being where I'm at. I'm always reaching for more. I want to learn more. I want to know more. I want to get further in my career. But I think that because there was that sense of doubt and uncertainty, are you sure? Can you really do that? Some people talk about the imposter syndrome. And I think that would have pushed me further along faster if I just maintained that level of confidence for myself. And so that's what I would say. Don't doubt yourself. Everyone is very capable of achieving great success. It's about our mentality, and it's about our drive and grit to want to get there.
I needed to hear that, so thank you.
Absolutely.
So the last question, where can we find you on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m.?
Ooh, so right now you will find me in my garden. I have, not to toot my own horn, but maybe I will. I have a 5-tier garden at the side of my house. I love it. It's so therapeutic. We work so long days with my career. I mentioned I have 3 kids, so we're busy all the time. That is where I go to disconnect. It's a lot of work, but I like it.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and thank you, Esther, for your time and expertise. I will put a feedback survey in the chat box. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey to be entered into a drawing for a Starbucks gift card. Our next Lunch with Leader series will be April 14th, featuring Dawn Stafford. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.